Welcome to our team's presentation of voicing your elasticity. Here are the areas we will cover in this presentation. We will talk about the following types of elasticity and different types of goods or service in the marketplace: PED, YED, and XED. We will also talk about the determinants of PED and how they impact the coefficient of elasticity. Also, we will discuss the different types of goods as defined by their demands and the roles of different elasticities in the decisions made by firms regarding prices and production levels. We will also talk about the roles of different elasticities in the decisions made by the government in terms of taxes, subsidies, and price controls, and also an explanation for why PED of commodity products is relatively low and the PED for manufactured products is relatively high. PED, XED, and YED. PED is the price elasticity of demand. It is a measure of the responsiveness of the demand for a product to changes in its own price. The formula for it is the percentage change in quantity demanded over the percentage change in price. Our investigation goods are cigarettes. Cigarettes have an inelastic demand, which means even if the prices are raised, consumers will still consume almost the same number of sticks or packs of cigarettes. This is because cigarette smoking is a form of addiction and smokers cannot easily withdraw from this habit. XED is the cross elasticity of demand. It is a measure of the responsiveness of the demand for one product to changes in the price of another product. The formula is the percentage changed in quantity demanded for good A divided by the percentage changed in price for good B. Examples on this would be Coke and Pepsi. If the price of Coke decreases, then the demand for Pepsi will increase. These two are substitutes, therefore they can replace each other. Since they are substitutes, the cross elasticity of demand between Coke and Pepsi is positive. YED. It is the income elasticity of demand. It is a measure of the responsiveness of the quantity demanded to changes in real income. The formula, percent change in quantity demanded over percent change in income. Our investigate goods would be hamburgers. Hamburgers have a negative income elasticity of demand because they are cheap. So as income rises, consumers tend to purchase more expensive, appealing, and nutritious foods like those in a restaurant. Another would be the iPhone. iPhones have a positive income elasticity because it's a luxury item. As consumers' income increase, they tend to buy more iPhones. Here is a list of the determinants of PED. Number 1, the availability of substitutes. If a product has a close substitute, it is relatively easy for a consumer to switch demand away from one product and divert it to another. Example, Starbucks and Costa Rica coffee. Number 2, the proportion of income spent on the product. The higher the percentage of the consumer's income that the product's price represents, then the higher the elasticity tends to be, as people will pay more attention when purchasing the good because of its cost. The income effect is substantial. When the goods represent only a negligible portion of the budget, the income effect will be insignificant and demand inelastic. Example of this would be the cars and rice. Consumers will be more inclined to weigh up the purchase more carefully while buying a BMW car because it's a luxury item. Cheap items like rice are likely to have an inelastic demand because it only presents a small percentage of consumers' income. The third determinant of PED is the number of uses of a product. If the commodity can be put to many uses, then the elasticity will be greater. For example, wheat has an inelastic price of demand because it can only be used once. You can't reuse wheat. Laptops and cell phones have an elastic price of demand because they can be used many times for a long period. Number 4, the addictive nature of a product. Goods which people regard as necessities are likely to have an inelastic demand. For example, the demand for coffee is likely to be inelastic because a change in price of coffee won't affect the consumers' drinking habit, especially those who are addicted to coffee. Number 5, time period. For some products, it is difficult for consumers to change their pattern of consumption in a short time. Demand might be relatively inelastic in the short term, but more elastic in the long term.
Normal goods are all those goods for which when income increases, demand increases, and decreases when income decreases, but price remains the same. For example, if the income of the customer goes up, he or she might decide to buy more wine and vice versa. Inferior goods are those goods that when income rises, demand decreases. For example, a customer would like to buy a BMW car. If his or her income increases a lot, his or her demand for the car decreases as he or she might want to buy a Porsche. In this case, a BMW is an inferior good compared to a Porsche. Complementary goods. A complementary good is a good with a negative cross elasticity of demand. As a result, its demand increases when the price of another one is. For example, if the price of bread decreases, the demand of Nutella might increase, as the customer might buy a bigger quantity of Nutella to put on the bread. Substitute good instead is a good which may replace another good in use because of a change in the conditions. In this case, however, the two goods need to be comparable. For example, if we take in consideration a specific type of cookies that cost $4, we probably have many substitutes of this product which are cheaper and can substitute it. PED, price elasticity demand, allows firms to see how to maximize their revenue. YED gives an idea of which goods should be produced. And finally, CED makes firms determine the affection of sales by consumers.
Here are the different elasticities in the decisions made by the government in terms of taxes, subsidies, and price controls. Governments take advantage of inelasticity and elasticity factors in order to make profit in some kind of good. For example, cigarettes and alcohol. Government puts taxes on these, but despite the price, people will continue to buy them because they are addictive. This is clearly an inelastic good. Now for subsidies, our example would be newspapers. The government may place subsidies on them in order to promote it and make more revenues in the process. Now, why is the PED of commodity goods so low? Primary commodities have a relatively low PED compared to manufactured goods because they are necessities and have little substitutes. This results in large fluctuations in primary commodity prices over short periods of time. Rice and wheat, for example, are inelastic commodity goods. Why is the PED of manufactured goods high? Well, the PED for manufactured goods is relatively high since there are more substitutes available to the consumer. For example, in this picture, we see many different kinds of cell phones. When the price on one kind of cell phone or one kind of brand of cell phone goes up, the consumer can easily switch to another substitute cell phone. So that's it for our presentation on voicing your elasticity. Thank you for watching.